Okay, we got a question for American Mamas. Dear Mamas, are y'all laughing because the Texas Democrats who fled the state got COVID? Because I'm laughing.
Well, let's ask our American mamas.
Mama, mama.
Told me not to go. She said, that ain't the way I know.
And joining us now are American Mamas, Terry Netterville and Denise Arthur. So last week, the Democrats from the House in the state of Texas left the state of Texas so that they wouldn't get outvoted.
Fled.
They just fled.
Fled the state of Texas. They didn't just leave.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it's fleeing when you're flying in a chartered plane, but they were flying in a chartered plane. They were not wearing masks while they were on the chartered plane. And now, so 58 left the state. Now, 5 of them have tested positive for COVID, which means 10% of all the Democrats who fled the state of Texas have COVID.
Well, first off, I want to say I'm not laughing at anybody that gets COVID because it's not funny when you get COVID, but it is a little ironic. It reminds me of that song, isn't it? Sitting in the clowns.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we did. But the thing about it is that they spin everything. First off, there's so many things that go on with this because number one, they're saying they're not symptomatic. Okay, well, and they were all vaccinated. So why were they tested? Why were they tested for COVID? How do we even know they have COVID?
And if they were fully vaccinated, and that means they don't have to wear a mask, why cannot every other American who is fully vaccinated get on a regular plane
and have a beer? Did you see that? They're drinking
Yes,
beer. First, and they're on they're on a charter jet, which does nothing for their whole global warming cause. I mean, there's just so much to this. And then there was a representative, that Representative Israel. This was like this almost knocked me down. It said, "Let this be a reminder that COVID-19 is still very much among us, with infection rates on the rise and more contagious variants spreading nationwide." And then she said, "Most importantly, I hope this instance highlights the sacrifices we are willing to make for the cause of democracy. I would not change anything to protect the right to vote."
Wait.
Fool.
Excuse me,
You
Wawa.
tried to avoid a quorum, and now you're in quarantine. How's that? That's ridiculous.
And how is not allowing the legislature in the state of Texas take a vote defending the right to vote?
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
I don't understand.
The way they're able to spin it's unbelievable
That's
to
like
me.
when a child runs through their room. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. That's what you do. You can't just flee. You don't flee.
No,
Chickens flee.
do
Cowards
your job.
flee. And that's what you did.
And, when you hear them on these talk shows, I cannot remember. It was somebody on Fox. He's the former Brian something. Anyway, he was talking to one of the guys.
Brian Kilmeade?
Yes.
Okay.
And nope, it wasn't him. It was the one that wrote that book that we got. Anyway, he was talking to somebody and he said, asking him, he was like, why? So is it okay? Is it okay for Americans to get on planes if they're fully vaccinated? That's what you're saying?
Right.
Well, he wanted to go back to this issue of, he said, no, we're actually doing what we were actually doing what the voters asked us to do. We were taking care of our Texas constituents. And I thought they literally spin everything. And I love what Jim Jordan had to say because Jim Jordan speaks for a lot of people. He gets a lot of hate on Twitter. But he said, can you imagine the media outrage if Republican lawmakers left their state maskless on a private jet, met with the vice president and tested positive for COVID-19? The CNN anchors would lose their minds. Well, the hate that he got from that, the trolls come out in force against Republicans.
Oh, yeah, for sure they do.
I mean,
for one thing, they're going to say, you know what? The mask rule does not apply on a private chartered jet.
That's right. That was one of the things that they said.
That's fine, but look what happened. Look what happened. You think just you would lead by example because if you're taking pictures of yourself, selfies, and you're posting them to social media, don't you think it would have been wise to practice
even before they were
what
vaccinated,
you preach?
Denise, this is the hard part. This is the hypocrisy that drives us nuts. They would be going into a room with all of the reporters. You would see them. Somebody would have their camera on, and they would come in without their mask on and immediately put their mask on. And then as soon as it's over and they thought all the cameras were off, they'd take them off and talk to each other. The hypocrisy is at a level that we never thought was imaginable. And then our journalists do not do their jobs. They do not cover this.
No.
That's one thing I will say. When Trump came on board, our eyes are open. Now we see who is part of the deep state, and the media is absolutely part of that. And if you go against the media, the trolls come out in force. I guarantee you, these trolls have like 100 different names. I'm sure they open different accounts because it basically says the same thing over. They have the same talking points over and over and over and over again. But this time they were caught red-handed and they're trying to spin it like it wasn't a big deal. It's a huge deal. What y'all did was wrong. It should be. It's
Well, and
un-American.
some of it's backfiring. That's what I think's so funny because I mean they're literally showing you that getting vaccinated didn't do them any good.
Exactly.
So I mean
Exactly.
this is why Americans are confused.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's the thing because I know one of the guys in one of these comments he said good job to the Hill that wrote an article, way to promote getting vaccinated. And then someone did, and this is what I had been thinking. Not one of them is showing any symptoms thanks to the vaccine. Then why weren't they tested?
Exactly.
I need to know. Somebody
I don't
find
get
the
it.
answer to that question.
If you'd like to ask
Baloney.
our American Mamas a question, go to our website, AmericanGroundRadio.com/mamas, and click on the Ask the Mamas button. Terry Netterville, Denise Arthur, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.